Welcome back, benchwarmers. It's that time of year when the smell of fresh cut grass on the diamond means it's gonna be a good day.
As you can tell, Corey really likes baseball. He is right, though. A nice afternoon ball game is always enjoyable.
This year during spring training, the MLB is trying out something new.
They're finally using robot umpires. Okay, well, not robots exactly, but they're moving closer to that reality. I'm Brendan.
I'm Corey, looking forward to abs, and this is Our View from the Bench.
Before we get started, if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss any one of the new episodes.
Also, if you could please do us the favor, if you like what you see here, please don't forget to smash that like button.
Smash it for us, come on. It's free. It's free for you, it's free for us. Helps out the channel a lot more than you probably think.
Hell yeah.
Well, Corey,
Ooh.
it's here. The future is here.
The future of baseball is here. I thought the clock or the pitch clock was already the future and everything, but we're continuing to go forward. Let's see what baseball has in store for us now.
I kind of like the pitch clock. Actually, was super awesome. So I'm thinking that this next idea is going to be one as well. Baseball is such a slow-moving sport. It's kind of nice when they try to come up with something new. I feel like they put a lot of thought into it before they just kind of throw it at the wall and see what sticks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it helps that they try a lot of these things in the minor league system first for like 2 or 3 years so they can kind of work all the kinks out before we bring it to the major league level because, as you said, baseball fans are all very old and tend to stick to, well, that's the way we've always done it. But that's not necessarily good for the sport and it growing as far as the future is concerned. So we got to make some changes. First couple ones have been successful. I'm hoping this one might be as well, like you said.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's get into it then. So without further ado, let's kind of get down. Basically, what it is it's not necessarily replacing the ump, right? It's just helping them.
Correct. There's still going to be an umpire behind home plate. We're not putting R2D2 back there or anything.
And they're calling most of the pitches, right?
Yeah,
they're calling all of them technically.
Yeah, they're calling all of them. This is just a challenge system to possibly fix a couple that calls that maybe at the end of the game are a little more important than in the first inning. So. Again, not full robots, just challenge system on balls and strikes. That's all we're talking.
Exactly. So we'll break down the zone. We'll give you a visual of what that zone looks like in a moment. But let's go over some of the simple rules. There's kind of 4 main rules of like how this is working. Corey, you want to start us off?
Yeah. So the 4 rules, like you said. The first one, each team will start with 2 challenges, and they will only use their challenge if the umpires call. They will only lose their challenge if the umpire's call is confirmed. So if they get both of them right and they win successful, I think they might get a third, but they do for sure get 2, and it's throughout the whole game, not per batter, not per pitcher. So
correct. No, they've actually fixed the NFL flaw in that if you consistently, or technically even the NBA flaw now, I forgot they have a challenge system. From what I believe, it's as long as you are consistently right, you consistently get it.
Okay, well, that makes sense because it means you're doing something right and you're paying attention.
And they're doing something wrong, the ump. No, we're not trying. This isn't like a crap on umps.
No.
That's not what we're trying to do. But there are some inconsistencies, and sometimes it's in like the meat of the time. Like, oh, this is so important, and if it was just this way or that way, it could be a little bit better. So the second thing is basically, which I can actually kind of like the second rule too. Only the batter, pitcher, or catcher can actually challenge the call. So you don't get to look for the ump or the dugout to see if your coach actually, had a good call or anything like that. You have to choose right away.
Yeah.
So batter, pitcher, catcher. And they do so, kind of like what I noted in my intro, they quickly tap on their either hat if they're in the field or their helmet as the batter or the catcher. So that kind of signals them that they can do it, that they want to challenge it. And it has to be done immediately.
Yeah, like you said, you can't look over and be like, hey, what'd you see on the field? Like, you have to, as soon as the caller's called, tap right away, and the umpire will do its thing. But
yeah,
can't wait.
Next rule.
All right, so number 3, there will be no additional challenges in extra innings. So if you've used them all up, it's not like in basketball where you go to overtime, you get a timeout again if you had no more going into it.
Right.
Like, that's it. Once the extra innings start, it's if you don't have any challenges left, you don't have any challenges left. If you still do, then keep going whenever you need them.
That's right. And the last rule is that the Hawkeye view, which is basically the digital view that you'll see, will actually be displayed on the big screen at the stadium.
Yeah.
So that way everyone can see.
Exactly, which is awesome. And not only is it a graphic, it shows the ball like coming, and you can see where it drops or moves in the pitch movement. So which is kind of cool. It's not just the ball here on the spot.
Here's where it's spot. Yeah.
So I do kind of like. And again, it doesn't take very long. I think the clip you and I watched earlier when we were talking about it took like 30 seconds. Like, it's not a big deal.
Honestly, less. Well, yes. So I read a stat that basically of the entire season last year, the average time per call was 17 seconds.
Oh, that's nothing. If
That's
anything,
nothing.
that's one more pitch clock that the pitcher and catcher get to stop and sit for a second, which
Exactly.
everyone was bitching that they don't get to stop at all. Well, here's an extra 10, 15 seconds for
There
you.
you go. Be happy for the challenge, right? Unless it goes against the pitcher, then maybe they'd be
Yeah,
mad.
well, yeah, then maybe you're a little mad, but whatever.
It is what it is. Nothing can be perfect, right?
No, absolutely not.
All right, so we'll throw it up on the screen here, so that way you can kind of get a little visual of what exactly that we're talking about. It kind of gives you a graphic of the different areas of the strike zone. There's obviously the width of the plate, the depth of the plate, and then the height of the batter. Now, most times the traditional strike zone that most people have was lettering of the jersey to roughly knees of the player. Obviously, it's kind of whatever the umpire thinks at that moment. But like I said, on the screen here, you'll see it is 100% the width of the plate, the 17 inches of the plate, and the 8.5 inches of depth from the front to the back. The thing that's mainly changing, Corey, if you want to explain it to him, is the up and down part, right?
Correct. Which I was wondering, how do you, as you said, based on batter to batter, because not everyone's the same size, but
Correct.
what they're going with is the bottom of the zone will be set at 27% of the batter's height, and the top of the strike zone will be at 53.5% of their
It's
height.
quite
So
specific.
I know it is exactly. I was like, 53, 0.5. Okay.
0.5. No, don't forget the half.
Yeah. So depending on how tall you are, that will depend on your strike zone from top to bottom. But like you said, it's 17 inches across because that's the width of the plate. So everyone has the same rules there. And again, it's about getting the call right, because not necessarily in the first inning or the third inning when there's nobody on. It's the first pitch of the bat. Like, we're talking like 8th inning, 9th inning. There's bases loaded, 1 out, full count. And if you get walked, you could, the game continues. You still have a chance to survive. But if you strike out, the game's over. Like, that's when these challenges, I think, are going to come in, hopefully, to play the most, more than anything else.
Yeah, true. And it doesn't even have to be full. Not that I'm discrediting what you're saying, but it could be the difference between an 0-2 count and a 1-1 count to both the pitcher and the catcher are huge, depending on the situation. So that kind of is there as well.
Yep.
The way that they calculated, obviously, Corey gave you the percentages. They have taken measurements of every single player in spring training. So they have the exact height of everybody. That way the calculations can be done ahead of time, and then you don't have to worry about like getting there at the game, but before the game. Okay, go ahead and stand here. Okay, you're this tall. Okay, go ahead. You can still stay with your routine. So they took it basically. Obviously, they're adults. They're not going to be growing throughout the seasons. It's not like Little League or something. Like, well, yeah, but what if by the end of the season he's taller? Like,
my strike zone is not that small anymore.
Exactly. So they already took the measurements. That way, they could try to utilize it here in spring training. And it's been okay. Again, the system wouldn't go into effect into Major League Baseball this season. This is completely only spring training. It's being used during the Cactus and the Grapefruit League play. If it's something that they like, the earliest it would be next season. So,
correct.
But it's currently been, like Corey mentioned previously, it's currently been in AAA. So, and it's going to continue in AAA this year as well to kind of ensure that the system is doing it correctly. So
and I think one of the best parts, I think, of them trying it out in the minors and working its way up is all these guys that have been using it for 2 or 3 years now have now hopefully moved their way up into the majors, and they're just going to continue using the same thing they've been using. So it's not going to change for the young guys. It's the old guys that are going to have to adapt and learn how to figure it out and use it. But
you mean like Verlander and Scherzer?
Yeah, well, they're 40-something years old. They're like complete opposite end of the spectrum too, so that doesn't help their case when they're thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, true. One of those pitchers that you actually mentioned, that borderline young pitcher, actually played for the Dodgers last year. Towards the end of the season, he got called up, but he played minor league for their Oklahoma City team, Landon Knack. He was actually asked about it during the spring training time right here, and he's quoted saying, "It's actually currently a little inconsistent." He goes on to say, "Ballpark to ballpark, it would not be calibrated the same. So you'd go someplace and it'd be higher or lower. You go to some places actually moved over an inch or two, which is kind of crazy to think about, but he actually has the experience. He pitched in 14 AAA games last year, as a starter. So he kind of has an idea of like really going to different, ballparks and seeing the inconsistency firsthand."
Yeah, true, but I'm thinking like it's only used in a challenge, so it's not like it's every ball and strike that's the issue. If it was every ball and strike was being called by the system, and you were talking about an inch here, stadium to stadium, then I would be a little more like, I don't think we should do this. But it's just a challenge, so it's the small things that they can fix, I think, to calibrate it correctly. And I can't imagine the width is very, very much of an issue because, like we said, every home plate is 17 inches wide. So I could see the height up and down thing being an issue as they learn to perfect the system. But the more they do it and the better they can spend more money into it because the MLB is really going to back it, I think it's only going to make it better in the long run.
I mean, that's the plan, obviously,
Right?
for sure. I guess he mentioned it because he saw that his walk rate from AAA to the majors was extremely different. Apparently, in Double and AAA last year, he walked twice as many batters per 9 innings than he did previously. He went from 4.1 batters walked per 9 innings to only 2.3 in the big leagues. Now, obviously, this is one of two things, in my opinion. Either this system is going to really like show which pitchers are borderline, or it's going to start showing which pitchers aren't good. And because a lot of them, if they're relying on bad calls from umps, this is going to start weeding out the average pitchers, maybe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's weird too because again, his walks are twice as much down in the minors, but again, this isn't every pitch that's being called on strike, and not every pitch you throw is being challenged. So that still means you're not a good pitcher. So I think your point of it could weed out some guys that are, as they say, 4A ball players, where they're good enough to be in AAA, but they're never good enough to quite make it in the majors. Maybe some of those guys get weeded out, and it kind of works its way that way. I don't know.
Yeah, the guys that get called up for a playoff run to just have more people on the roster kind of thing. Yeah, like you want them there, but you're probably not going to play them very much. So
yeah, thankfully they got rid of that 40-man thing. Remember in September it used to go from 25 to 40, and all of a sudden there's like a whole new team up there, but you can only go up to I think a 28 or so now. And
yeah, a couple more players added. Yeah, exactly. Kind of referring also back to the minor leagues. Last year it was challenged by players. It was only actually a 51% overturn rate. So 49% of the time it was fine. So I mean, it does show that it works because more often than not, I mean barely, but more often than not, it's correct.
Yeah.
But it's not showing that there's some like egregious error. Like if 4% were being overturned, it's like what a waste of time. Or if 96% were being overturned, it's like we need entirely new umps. So you know what I mean? So at least it goes to show that there's it's pretty close. So
yeah. And well, there's a lot of good umpires out there. That's not that the umpires are terrible, because like you said, if they were, I think they'd be getting rid of them. But
true.
It's just a matter
Angel
of
Hernandez.
Yes, it's just a matter of sometimes the big calls in a moment that means more than it did again in the first inning. If we're in a playoff game, it's the 8th inning, and even like you said, it could be a 1-1 count because the difference between 1-2 and 2-1 changes that at bat completely. So when it comes to that late games and important moments, I think that's when it's really going to be awesome. But not only the first couple innings, I get it. Human error is going to happen. It's just like basketball too. We talk about last 2 minutes, you want to do challenge reviews, cool. Otherwise, just play the game. So I kind of similar in baseball.
The only thing I hate about basketball, I know this is not a basketball topic, but don't give me the last 2-minute report. Don't tell me why you were wrong constantly. Just stop being wrong. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying I get we're all humans. It's imperfect, but like, oh yeah, we got this wrong. Yeah, I totally would have changed the outcome of the game. You guys probably would have won, but yeah, but my bad. It's like, well, then don't tell me. I'd rather just not know. You know what I mean? So, one thing actually that I had read when I was doing a little bit of research on this is when they asked some of the pitchers, some of them are a little skeptical. Corbin Burns, actually, new Diamondbacks pitcher, was one of the ones that was quoted here. He says that he's kind of used to actually being accustomed to studying the umpire's historical strike zone. Yeah. So apparently, I didn't even know that this was something that major league pitchers do. Obviously, when you're preparing for a game, you're obviously, besides physically preparing for a game, mentally, you're focusing on your opponent. Who's going to be batting? What does this person hit? Where do they hit it well? And how can I avoid that? Or what don't they hit well? And how can I pitch that? Right. But apparently Corbin Burns and maybe other pitchers also are looking at umpires' history and how they call it. I mean, it kind of makes sense, but it's just something I never thought about. But he kind of thinks that kind of throws us off a little bit because something that would historically be called a strike for this guy could now be called a ball and vice versa. What do you think? I mean, right is right? Don't we? Isn't that what we want?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Getting the call correct in the strike zone is the most important part. Now, I understand Corbin Burns doing that. That's actually really smart that you should be. And I think in the NBA, too, they talk about how certain refs call certain things a different way.
True.
So you always look at who the refs are, the umpires are, depending on the sport. But in this case, if you're a pitcher, I honestly think that having to worry about not only the lineup that you're going to face, but also which umpires back there, if you didn't have to worry about whose strike zone it was that day, and it was
just a strike zone. Yeah, exactly.
You can just focus on the opponent, and you don't have to add that extra layer of research and work that you have to do. It's just, I think it's better for everybody. And again, if you're an umpire, if you're behind home plate, it's even less stress on you to have to make those calls. I feel like you can focus on again, check swings is always a big issue because how can you call a strike and see if the check, like, how can you do all that at one time? So maybe that's something they get better at calling moving forward because of this. I don't know. It's just a lot of things that could be positive, but nobody wants to change it. So
is that next? Are they putting sensors in bats to see if it crosses the plate?
I mean, that I haven't heard that yet, but you might be onto something there. It's not the worst.
Because check swing, to your point, they look at the opposite, either the first or the third umpire. I mean, sometimes the home plate calls it, but a lot of times for the appeal, right, they look at either first or third. I mean, while that's a better angle, it's not a good one.
No, not at all.
So maybe that's next after that, which honestly I wouldn't mind either. They're already going to think about probably doing it in football for the first down kind of thing. So
exactly, same concept.
Maybe something they do there.
All right.
One of the fun.
I say, how are players reacting through spring training? That's what we need to get into.
I mean, a lot of
to it.
Say it again.
How players are reacting to this now challenge system for the first time. A lot of these major guys have never seen this before, obviously.
Yeah, no, seriously. Well, like I read about Corbin Burns, he's kind of skeptical of it, but during his first outing, pitching, they challenged twice, and Diamondbacks got it right both times. Following that game, there was another. I think it was the Rockies. Who did I say it was? Cubs. Oh. I don't remember. They actually challenged, and on back-to-back pitches, they had something overturned. So again, I think it's good. The funniest story though that I had heard so far was Dave Roberts, ex-player, but he's mentioning his player Max Muncy. Apparently, he was quoted saying, "quote I told Max, don't challenge." He says he's one of our biggest culprits of not agreeing with the strike zone. So he just said, you know what? Save your challenges. You don't challenge. Guess what? You're just going out there. Don't challenge anything.
Well, that is even better because of the story I heard during spring training. Because the first time this challenge system was actually used was by the Cubs. I can't remember the pitcher's name off the top of my head.
Okay.
But the batter at the plate was Max.
Oh my gosh.
So as much as he was told not to challenge, it was used against him.
He was involved.
And the pitcher was right. Instead of being a 1-1 count, it was overturned and became an 0-2 count in favor of the pitcher. So for Muncy, he was probably not very happy, but that's the way we play the game in spring training right now.
Hey, we want it to be correct. And like you said, a 1-1 count is a lot different against Max Muncy than 0-2.
Yeah. Oh,
Max Muncy could rake.
Yeah, and if he's got 1-1 and you got to work a little bit differently than 0-2, we can try to make him chase. That's a huge difference in an at-bat if it's like an important at-bat of a game. So I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Agree. We actually have a clip. So two things. One, you can see what it looks like live live from a spring training game. Obviously, it's a recording. But two, it's kind of a little funny.
This is so good, dude. Okay, so let me set this up before we play.
Roll it for me. Tell me.
So they have a challenge, pitch is thrown, challenge is called by the catcher. So he has his helmet, umpire turns around and is going to go with the system. So let's go ahead and play the clip and you can see his reaction.
Good breaking ball, just misses. Brett Sullivan get a challenge.
Ball call.
Brett has been expert at the ABS system. Ooh.
The call is surprisingly correct. 3.
Oh, we told.
Surprisingly correct.
So, I guess I was right.
So to your point earlier, there are a lot of good umpires, and they do right a lot of the time. But when it's really close, and again, I think if once it's implemented into the regular season in a year or two, and it's in important moments of games, I think that's when fans will really actually embrace it. Right now it's all like it's spring training and we're all just here to have fun and in Arizona and get drunk and watch baseball. It doesn't matter. So
exactly
when it matters, and I think it's actually used in the future, I think that's when fans will actually enjoy it. But right now it's just a novelty act for them. I think
that pitch was close,
dude. Even the announcers were like, "Oh, catcher's been pretty good so far in spring." Ooh, so close.
So just missed that one. Well, but that's pretty much it. That's ABS in a nutshell, or ABS, as Corey likes to mention. But I mean, again, it's something that could be good for the game. If we want to have games where we're correct with things, it's only beneficial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if we want to get the calls correct when they matter the most, I
think
use
the technology
that can help us get to that point and ultimately not screw up something. Because if we can all see it in film later how bad it is, why not just get it right in the first place?
100%. I know there's 162 games, but sometimes they matter.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
Well, let us know down in the comments below. Do you think ABS is a good idea?
Or is Major League Baseball maybe doing too much and trying too many things? Let us know on Twitter and Instagram at RVUFTB, or as Brendan said, right here on the YouTube comments.
Appreciate everybody stopping by. Thank you as always for seeing these from RV from the Bench. I'm Brendan.
I'm Corey. Like we always say, enjoy the sports until we talk again.
Peace. Baseball season, baby. Almost here.
Let's go. This was a Sycamore Fourth Studios production.